We have all had that one period in our lives when we didn't exactly have it all together, financially, career-wise, and even spiritually. Let me tell you about a time in my life when I was 25 years old. I wasn't a child anymore, but I wasn't yet capable of living the life that I always dreamt about. As I said, I was 25 years old. I've been working some boring corporate jobs that didn't really pay that much. And the worst part was that I didn't love doing it either. Because my salary was modest, to say the least, I couldn't afford to move into an apartment in the good part of town. And believe me, I've been looking for a place for some time, but all I could manage at the moment was a small one-bedroom apartment, which was in a neighborhood known for its high crime rate. I thought I would manage for a couple of months, hoping that in no time I would find another job that would allow me to start getting my life together. Anyway, I moved into that apartment. The landlady was sweet, though. "Is everything okay, dear? It's not much, but for a single girl like you, I think it would work. Also, if you need anything, I'm just one phone call away," the landlady said after handing me the keys to the place where I'd live for the time being. No, it's great. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to call you if something comes up," I replied to her while I was looking around the place, feeling like it was much smaller than in the pictures. But how could I complain? The rent was pretty affordable, and it permitted me to save up some money at the end of the month. After a couple of days of going to IKEA and some other similar stores, I managed to make the place better in a sense that it captured some of my personality. I bought some abstract paintings of cats and dogs. Yeah, I know it may sound weird, but the landlady doesn't let me keep pets inside, so this was the next best thing. The apartment started to shape up really nicely. "Oh yeah, now it looks like a place I could enjoy living in," I said to myself while I finished decorating and taking a final look around. But there was only one problem, and this is the main issue for why I decided to tell you this story. The elevator. You may think, what could be so problematic about an elevator that it needs an entire story? Bear with me here. This was more than a problem. I should have mentioned that I lived on the 10th floor, so whenever I would go grocery shopping or even any other time, I wasn't going to climb 10 flights of stairs. That was absolutely inhumane. The elevator was very old. Sometimes it worked, and sometimes I could hear people from the elevator shaft screaming that they're stuck, and it took the maintenance guy a couple of hours to come and get the person out. One day I had had enough. I went straight to the building manager, and I was convinced that I will get the problem sorted out that day. I knocked on his door, but he didn't seem to be home. Yet, as I planned to turn around and go back to my apartment, I heard something inside, so I continued knocking several times. Finally, he opened the door. "What?" he asked while looking visibly angry. I think I interrupted something. "I'm sorry to bother you. I live at 1004 on the 10th floor. I just wanted to ask you if you could call anyone to fix the elevator. It's clearly a danger to the people living in the building," I told him politely and even gave him a smile. "No, I will. Someday. Until then, just take the stairs. It's good for you," he replied in a husky voice before slamming the door in my face. I was left without words. This guy could care less. I really thought I was going to fix the elevator problem, but it seems like I failed. Anyway, I went back to my apartment, and I used the stairs this time. There were only 5 flights between his apartment and mine. I finally got to my door, and I was breathing so hard that I thought I might pass out. I know, you might say that I'm a bit out of shape, but the elevator is there for a reason. Why not use it if it's installed? And why not fix it? That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and decided to relax while watching a nice show on Netflix. This entire elevator business really angered me. So, because I drank an entire bottle of wine, I fell asleep on the couch, and then I woke up late. I opened my eyes the next morning and saw that I should really already be out the door so I would get to work on time. In my panicked state, I ate whatever I could find and ran out the door. I had 2 options: go down the stairs and definitely be late for work, or take the elevator and maybe get to work on time. So I chose the latter. I got in the elevator and it went down 2 floors. That's it. And it was stuck. I had to call for help, and for 2 hours I was inside that little box, fearing for my life. And that day, well, that's when it all started to go downhill. After a couple of days, I was again in a situation when I needed to use the elevator. It was one evening when I came home with groceries and some house stuff, and I just couldn't drag them up the stairs. I got in, and before the door could close, a guy came rushing in. He smiled at me, and I saw the most yellow teeth ever. He had a cross tattooed on top of his bald head and appeared a bit odd to me. As the elevator was barely moving, the guy started humming while looking straight at me. He was singing a weird chant or something. I looked ahead, but I could feel him staring me down. I felt really uncomfortable, and I got off on the 5th floor. I ended up carrying the groceries on the stairs. As the days went by, the stupid elevator and the random people I encountered continuously pushed me towards evacuation. But there was this one time that made me move out of the building entirely. I was coming home from work, and I saw that the elevator doors were closing, so I rushed to catch it. And as I did, my arm got stuck between the 2 closing doors. I tried to nudge it out, but I couldn't. That wasn't the terrible part. The terrible part was that the elevator started going up, and my wrist was locked between the doors, meaning that I in no time would lose my hand. My face paled. "Help me, I'm stuck, help me." I screamed, but no one answered. The elevator was slowly going up, and my hand was slowly approaching the area where it would start to be severed clean off. Then suddenly, the crappy elevator stopped and its doors opened. I hastily pulled my arm out. That was the last time I would ever use that elevator. I could have lost my hand. The next day, I went to work determined to get a raise, and in my infuriated state, I actually got it. And it was enough for me to move to a place where I wouldn't have to constantly worry about my safety.
I stepped into the elevator after receiving the key to my room. It was finally the week I had looked forward to for days. The week to let go of my worries and just enjoy the bliss of nature. I was happy for the beach and the mini pool around the hotel. This was the perfect place to relax. Holding on to my bags tightly in the elevator, I waited patiently for the elevator to get to the floor my hotel would be. "Hey, beautiful," I heard a thick voice behind me. It was the guy that was in the elevator when I stepped in. Why in the world would you call a stranger you meet in the elevator beautiful? Some people really didn't know how to communicate. "Yeah?" I asked, confused as to why he called me. I would have never turned to answer, but seeing that it was just the 2 of us in the elevator, he must have been talking to me. "I'm Zach. You look really pretty though. Mind if I touch your hair or hug you? You look really clean," he said while looking at me with emotions that I could not decipher. I responded in the negative, feeling uncomfortable. "Come on, pretty. That is gonna make me sad. I'm sure you don't want to see a sad or angry guy like me. Let's do this in a simple manner," he said, walking to me in an intimidating way. I prayed silently for the elevator to open soon, coupled with a prayer that he should not be on the same floor as I was. I moved away from him as he stepped closer, my pulse and fear rising. "Don't run from me, baby girl. Before he could finish his sentence, the elevator's door opened and I rushed out with my bags, happy to be away from him. I opened my door quickly, hoping he was not after me. I rushed in and closed the door behind me, not taking any chances of anyone sneaking up on me for whatever reason. Hopefully, that would be the last time I would see him. I slept in that night and ordered room service to fill my stomach. I was really tired, and the guy I met earlier just made it all worse. I slept off listening to my favorite song, Love Me Like You Do by Ellie Goulding. The song always had a way of putting me in the right mood even if everything was going off. It was the song I needed for the mindset that everything would be better tomorrow and things would make absolute sense. The light rays entered the room through the small opening between the curtains, waking me up. I smiled to myself, taking it as a sign that the day would be good. I wanted to walk around instead of just sitting in the room ordering room service, so I could enjoy the whole experience that came with this vacation. After dressing up and getting ready for the day ahead, I went out of my room and headed for the beach first. It was a good place to be in such hot weather. As I stepped into the elevator, it was too late before I realized he was in the elevator with me. The door already closed, and it was pointless trying to open it after I just got in. Why is he always in this elevator? Does he sleep here? Why do I have to meet him early in the morning? Such a great way to start the day, I thought angrily as I looked pointedly away from the weird guy. We meet again. I have been waiting for you all night, he spoke, his voice like that of someone who's been smoking for years and gradually losing his voice. I warned him that if he should try to touch me, I would report to the management. Oh, he shivered sarcastically. Linda, is that a threat I hear? Linda? I didn't remember introducing myself to him yesterday. How did he get my name? I was lost in my thoughts before realizing that something was stroking my hair. He was moving me towards the wall of the elevator. I pushed him off, carefully enough to not let his head hit the wall of the other side. I wasn't going to be responsible for the death of anyone. The hotel would have to deal with this themselves. The elevator opened and I ran out. I better not see him around anymore when he got kicked out. I tried to calm down as I walked up to the receptionist. Good morning, ma'am. Hope you had a good night. She sounded professional, probably how they were taught to act around their customers. Yes, thank you. I need to report something that I would be glad if something is done about it. I had my fingers crossed. Who knows what the weird guy could do next? What could that be, ma'am? I explained my experience with the guy in the elevator, waving my arms in agitation. I described how the guy looked to her and mentioned his name. Zach? She said his name continuously, trying to remember if someone who fit into the description came to mind while checking the lists of the customers on her computer. That would be Mr. Zach Hall, she asked. Ma'am, I think you have the description mixed up. Mr. Zach is a very good customer of this hotel and someone who has been coming here for a long time. I don't think he could do any of those things you mentioned. He is a good man. I know him personally, she said, her eyes throwing weird glances at me like I was crazy. You probably don't understand me. I'm being stalked by a customer and he is being a threat to me. You're supposed to investigate and see that I'm telling the truth here. What exactly are you telling me? She informed me that even the manager would tell me the same thing. Apparently, Mr. Zach was a respected person in their hotel. I walked angrily into the elevator hoping the so-called Zach was not there. Thankfully, he wasn't there. As the elevator door opened to my floor, I stormed angrily into my room, ordering room service as I got in. Food was as important as safety. I needed to eat. I heard a knock after about 15 minutes. It was the food I ordered. Finally, someone was listening to something I needed. I asked the person to come in. It was Zach. Surprise? Miss me? His face held a sinister look as he spoke. He locked the door behind him. I dove for the telephone beside me and dialed the front desk. He ran for me as I screamed help into the receiver. All I expected from you was a little courtesy. He banged my head on the table and my vision swam. My door opened and 2 security guards rushed in, carrying Zach off. The receptionist sent them up after hearing my cry for help. Zach was taken to the police station. That night was the last one I spent in that hotel. My vacation came to an abrupt end.